Hey guys, my name is Eric Peng and I'm the founder of Daily Fantasy Nerd. In this video, I'm going to show you how to utilize Daily Fantasy Nerd's new mass lineup tool. So first I want to talk about why pros utilize mass entry strategy. The primary reason is they want to minimize variance. It helps to diversify your lineups so that if one player doesn't hit on any given day, not all of your lineups are dead in the water. One caveat I want to mention is that if you're a losing player, playing mass entry GPP could cause you to just lose faster. So I always recommend that you practice sound bankroll management. For GPPs, that usually means less than 3 to 5% of your bankroll is what I typically recommend. And so if you're new to mass entry, I'd say take it easy going into it. Start at like the quarter arcade or the 25-cent, $1 entries and put in like 50 lineups, let's say, and do kind of like a trial and error approach there than trying to do mass entry at higher stakes. Because if you're a losing player and you enter more lineups, you're probably just going to lose your money even faster. So this is definitely a strategy that's more geared towards advanced players who already have a sound understanding of DFS and the strategies that you take to build strong lineups. So let's get started. I'm going to start off by building lineups. And you'll notice now that there's a heart icon that you can use to save an individual lineup, or you can click save all lineups to save all of them. So if you go to like the last lineup, you'll see all of these have now been saved. Then you can go to the lineups tab and you'll see that there's a bunch of stats about the lineups at the top. You can export, you can remove, and you'll see all of the lineups at the bottom here. So I'm going to walk through this top section first. There's all of the standard stats here. There are lineup specific stats over here. And so you have the number of lineups, percentage of lineups, so this is your exposure level, your total salary across all the lineups, and the percent of max salary. So this is total salary divided by max number of lineups times salary cap per lineup. So, and the exposure level is what I typically go look at first. There's two camps for this. The more common pro camp is that they tend to have maybe 5 players that are between 50 to 70% owned. And this varies by sport too. There's some stack strategies in MLB where I've seen players that are no more than like 25% owned for hitters and like 50% owned for pitchers. So I'm not going to go into detailed strategy about exposure levels. There's a lot more that you can research there. You can analyze how pros do their distributions, but the goal here is to show you that we provide you with this percent lineups or exposure column so that you can more easily manage your exposure levels. And I also like to look at this percent max salary. The reason I like to look at this is because the guys on your team that are more higher cost salary, these guys need to hit higher values in order for your lineups to hit. And so players like Ian Kennedy or even Seager and Utley here, you have to be a lot more correct for these guys than some of the guys that are like, let's say, Gary Sanchez at 3%. Even though he is at 55% of your lineups, because he's only $2,000, he doesn't need to hit as high of a actual fantasy point value to hit value. And so basically this is a way of identifying not just your exposure level, but how much of your overall salary you're applying to those players. Another thing I like to do is sort by position. So you can look at your exposure level broken down by position. So you can see, you're pretty heavy on Ian Kennedy. So if you want to diversify a bit more, you might want to lock in another pitcher, or you can exclude Ian Kennedy here and create more lineups. You're basically all in on Chase Utley and Seager here. So let's say I wanted to create 80 lineups, and I'm going to exclude Utley, Seager, and Ian Kennedy just because relative to their position, they're really over-indexed. Whereas for most of the other positions, it's a little bit more balanced. So when I excluded those positions and then build optimals, you'll find that those players are no longer showing up. So I'm going to save all these lineups. And you'll find that, for the Previous players that I excluded, their max was 40. So Tommy Pham did get bumped up. You get more guys that'll jump up. But this is one way that you can kind of manage your exposure. So if I were to sort by position again, you'll find that you have a little bit more balance at the second baseman position. You have more balance at the shortstop position, as well as at the pitcher position. So that's one approach. This is a very simplistic approach to balancing your exposure levels. There's a lot of different ways for you to create lineups. You can take this approach. You can manually edit projections, and that'll affect the exposure levels. You can lock, exclude players. You can use our weighted average projections. So for GPPs, typically you want to weight the ceiling a little bit more. So you can say like, I want 50% here, 50% here, or you can kind of tweak, trial and error, see what works for you. You can also stack hitters. So you can do you can do 4 stack for Dodgers and then create a bunch of lineup with just that, or you can do 4 stacks and create a number of different stacks across all of your lineups. So there's numerous ways that you can create lineups to leverage this tool and to see what kind of exposure level that you're getting. At the bottom here, you have all of the lineups. You can sort by salary. So let's say you think you have too much Ian Kennedy. You can see if there's any lineups that have too much salary left behind that you don't like, and you can just remove that by hitting this heart icon. You can also sort by the projected lineup total and remove from the bottom there. Let's say, going back to the optimizer page, if you are creating a lot of separate lineups, we've also added hotkeys, so you can actually click B to build lineups. And then you can click S to save lineups. Now, let's say that you created lineups earlier in the day when the lineups weren't confirmed yet, or you created lineups and then there was a last minute switch of a player that's in your lineup. So let's say, for the purpose of just example, I'm going to lock in Rayburn. So let's just say you had saved this lineup earlier in the day before starting lineups were confirmed, and then Rayburn's announced out. You'll find that we will alert you that there's a player in one of your lineups that's no longer starting. So if you sort by the batting order column, you'll find that Rayburn's not starting here. You can actually use this search to find that lineup, or you can also just click this heart icon and remove all lineups that he's in. So now he's gone. And then once you're ready to go, just go to the export to CSV, and you'll be spit out all of the player IDs. You can follow the instructions in our export lineups to FanDuel and DraftKings to convert this into the slate-specific format that the DFS sites require. So this feature will be available as part of the All-Star and MVP plans. So you'll see there's the Save and Manage Lineups feature for each of those. And we'll be working on adding more lineups for optimization as part of this tool in the very near future. We should have it up before NFL season, hopefully. And that'll make it a little bit easier for you to do bulk lineup creation, especially when you take the edit player projection approach. I hope you found this tutorial valuable, and good luck in your GPP play.